Hey guys, welcome to Stereotype, a podcast about assumptions based on stereotypes. This week we're talking about science and we have two guests, one named Terrence and Arthur. I am your host, Mahina Wong, and another host is Justin Chan. Terrence, Arthur, and Justin, introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Justin, and I'm the co-host of this podcast, and I'm in charge of the secondhand research part and a speaker on this podcast.
Hello, I'm Terrence. I'm from CSS as well. I'm currently Form 5. I'm in the IB diploma program. And the two science subjects that I take are physics higher level and also chemistry higher level.
So yeah, I'm from Terrence chemistry class, and I also study bio instead of physics. Here we go. It's Arthur, by the way.
Great. So we're going to have a few things we're going to talk about. First of all, we have some assumptions that we got on Instagram. You can't see it, but they're there. And I'm going to talk them through and see what your opinions are, as well as me and Justin, who are really not science students at all. So we're going to ask you a few questions, as well as a few research things that we found online that we'd like to ask for your opinion. And last but not least, a short conversation about these assumptions. So here are the responses I got, mostly calling you guys smart, very smart. So I'm going to read out all of them, and based on, you can stop me if you want to respond to one of them. Academically smart but not smart in real life, nerd, antisocial, noobs, busy, naturally quite intuitive. They either love science or hate it and got forced to take it. Quite good at math. I'm not going to read the ones Arthur submitted to me. Their jobs to earn a lot of money, smart, get to have a lot of fun, always doing experiments, really hardworking, and pretty chill. Want to respond to any of them?
There was one about being smart in the subject but not in real life, I think.
Yep, correct.
The main issue with this is it's all it depends on the factors. Some people may be smart academically, but it is true that some people may be, well, rather poor at communication skills or social skills. But really, it depends from person to person. For me personally, I think I'm not too bad at communication. I've got a social life. I have friends. Not many, but the ones that I do know them quite well. But really, it depends from person to person. Arthur, how about you?
So I think stereotypes are sometimes a good thing because it is really convenient for us to generalize something and to find something like common in it. Like me and Terrence, apparently, if they think we are smart, then I say like we are average. We are averagely smart, and so it is easy for people to judge us by using these stereotypes. And like technically, they think us science people are only good at science, but apparently that's not very true. Like many of us are very all-rounded. I gotta say this, like, for example, I take Chinese literature and English literature, and I really like the subject Chinese too, and I wrote a Chinese book last year. If you're interested, you can go to the school library for that. So stereotypes are convenient, but they are sometimes not true.
I'd like to ask, using the term STEM, which I'm pretty sure everyone has heard, the lovely term STEM stands for science. I forgot what T stands for, engineering and mathematics.
Technology.
Technology, yes. So those four terms. Are there any specific area you don't technically get involved in as much? Because we usually call science kids the STEM kids, but obviously not true.
Well, let's just take the school environment as an example. Science, as long as you take some form of science, whether it's sports science or biology, physics, chemistry, or just integrated science in general, you will have exposure to it in your daily lives. Technology, the best example is mobile devices, for example. or well, your laptop that you're using right now. You get exposure to well the internet and the digital age constantly around you, but whether you actually go into depth and learn about these different technologies, say for example how 5G works, how Wi-Fi works, or maybe how modern processors work, not everyone may learn that, as well as robotics, how you can control different arms, for example, or sensors, how you can read data off. Not everyone may have exposure to that. Engineering, if you take DT, I think that would be probably the best example of that, or the robotics CCA that we used to have. I'm not sure if they still have it at CSS. I hope they do. But if you do take a CCA, there's a good chance that you'll be exposed to engineering in some sort. Last and not least, mathematics. I'm fairly sure everyone has exposure because you're forced to take math in well the IB as well as the HKDSC programs. On a bit of a side note here, the more popular STEM nowadays is actually STEAM, where arts A is integrated in there. And well, in general, IB students, as well in Form 1 to Form 3, anyways, we get a good amount of arts exposure as well. You have to take drama, VA, and
Visual
music.
arts and music.
Yes.
And then in technology, you do food tech, design
Food tech,
tech, and
DT,
ICT, which is
ICT.
computer science
Yes.
in short.
Mhm. So overall, you do get a good amount of exposure, but as you progress up the years, you may get less exposure to one of these aspects, whether it's time issues or just not having the capability to choose that subject.
Agreed. I have another one I like to ask, and that is one said quite good at math. Do you, not just for you guys, I know both of you are very, very intelligent in the math, doing a math AA higher level course, and I am in the lowest standard course there is in the diploma. But I like to ask, do you think all science students have to be good at maths, or specifically, like, say you guys do like a double science, right? But not all double science students take an AA maths course or like a higher level math course. So what do you guys think about that? Arthur, do you want to answer?
Yeah, so people say like math is the foundation of physics and physics is the foundation of chemistry and biology is a form of chemistry or the chemistry of water. So as you can see, like math is like more important for like physics and chemistry. And Terrence, would you like to further elaborate why is it more important on physics instead of like biology?
Sure. Let's take physics, for example. In physics, there's tons of different calculations you have to do, tons of different formulas. Maybe you have to find something to do with light, for example. You want to find the wavelength of a particular specimen of light after it goes through something called the diffraction grating. That needs to use math, that needs to use formulas. Physics in general is basically built on math, especially when you get into university level courses. A good amount of it is based on something called calculus, which is very complicated, invented by the most famous person is, well, Newton. There's also a few other contributors. I'm not going to name them here. But let's then go on to chemistry. For chemistry, the most common type of math is basically in a way derived from physics. There's some, you may have to calculate something like how much energy is required to raise the temperature of a substance by maybe 1 degree, for example, a specific or total heat capacity. You may also have to calculate the number of moles of substance in a given sample. So there's also some math there. With regards to biology, I don't take it, so I'm not too sure. But in general, physics is basically the most mathematically demanding course. And well, if you don't take physics, or let's say maybe you take sports science or biology, there's likely also still going to be some calculations, but it's not going to be as heavily math based, if you get what I'm saying.
Awesome. One more question for me, and let's go into the memes that Justin has researched and stuff he researched that we're gonna ask you. One more question. Do you guys plan on going into a science major after high school? For example, like like a straight physics major or any major regards to the sciences. So like the faculty of science, basically. I know Terrence went to a UST course for 2-3 years, and you've already experienced quite a bit of the university life. Any opinions on if like how do we call it, gifted programs are good for students who are interested in the sciences or is well gifted in it, and why do you like the sciences?
Well, let's answer these questions one by one. Uh, First of all, yeah, I did go to a UST course on physics. That was 3 years in total. To whether they actually help, for the most case, it basically gives you more of a head start. If you're really passionate about a subject, the amount of research you can do on your own is fairly limited. You may be able to look up textbook problems or just go to Wikipedia, for example, look up formulas. But does it really mean that you understand it? Not necessarily. So that's why some accelerated courses, they do help because there's actually usually a fairly qualified professor teaching you. However, the effect may vary for person to person. Some people may find it better to learn at their own pace because accelerated courses are in general quite fast because they're usually only yearly and they may have to cram in a lot of content. And what was your other question?
What do you plan on going into a science major, and why do you like the sciences, or why did you purposely take it?
Okay. Why did I take the sciences? The main reason I took science would probably just because of a pure interest in the whole scientific world and subjects. I've always been fascinated by physical phenomena around me. So let's say why at night you can see inside your house outside, but outside people can't see in. There's plenty of physical phenomena, whether it's in chemistry, how let's say bleach or hydrocarbons work to form other chemicals, or maybe in physics how the acceleration of gravity is affected by various phenomena, and where does gravity even come from? All of this is really interesting to me, and I've wanted to learn more about it, and that's why I chose science as well. My, I guess you'd call diploma subjects. As to whether I plan on taking university courses, majors on these sciences, it's highly likely. I'm thinking of something to do with maybe science or engineering so far. What about you, Arthur?
So as you see, like I'm somewhat a practical person too. Like in my old school, I remember like my chemistry teacher telling me, like you don't have like even if you study chemistry in like a university, like the current German president and many other famous people, they study chemistry, and it might doesn't have like a direct relation to like your career or what you do later, but it's a certain skill set that is actually very important. Like in for example, in medicine, which I plan on studying, we have to study chemistry. It is a subject requirement, and I was doubting why was chemistry necessary to study medicine because it was not that related. I have to say that, and like a doctor told me that chemistry, although it would not be used that much like ionic bonds and covalent bonds, you won't use them in studying medicine, but it is a certain skill set that is necessary for like science subjects and subjects like medicine in university. So my current choices of biology and chemistry, it is necessary for me to study this in order to get a medicine in university. So when you get to a higher form, it is necessary to know what career are you planning to go to and what university requirements are needed, so you would choose your subjects wisely.
All right, so now I'm gonna give it to Justin as he did some research. So take it from there, Justin.
Okay, so first of all, I personally would want to ask, what are your views on these stereotypes? So Arthur said that you think stereotypes are good because you can categorize people. But then it's also bad because you overgeneralize. Is that it? So you're like neutral.
As I mentioned, it's a convenient thing to do when you don't know like a Chinese person. For example, if you're an American, you don't know a Chinese person. It is easy to say they're good at math, they're Asian, they're good at math and stuff like that. But it is convenient to do so, and there is a probability that they are indeed good at math. But it is only convenient to do so. It doesn't mean it is right. So I'm neutral to it because if I don't know like some European and I have some stereotypes on them, and sometimes it's true and it is convenient for us to learn about them and to know about them and find topics to talk with them. But it is not right if we overgeneralize this. So you can say I am somewhat neutral on this to like the sole concept of generalization. And
You're muted.
You muted yourself.
hello?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
So yeah, I'm somewhat neutral to this.
Okay, what about Terrence? What's your view on this?
Well, to a large extent, I agree with Arthur as well. It's a double-edged sword. It can be helpful as to how you think of, well, a culture or people. The issue is often stereotypes are quite frankly completely preposterous, wrong. The issue with stereotypes is because you don't actually understand the subject at hand. You don't have firsthand experience. You're only basically guesstimating. So because of that, it's hard to actually judge how, let's say, Asian people are if you don't have actually firsthand experience. If you do, then, well, you can make, well, I guess, in a way, more educated stereotypes, more educated guesses. But overall, they usually tend to have bad effects on society because very often they end up with maybe discrimination or just racism occurring a lot in general. Is it fine if we get a little bit about COVID, or should we avoid that?
Yep, absolutely. Whatever that works to
Okay.
explain your point.
If everyone has been watching the news, this was quite a long time ago, but because COVID originated in China, in various countries like the United Kingdom or the US, various countries, people have been hating on Chinese people a lot more because of stereotypes. They're thinking that, oh, all Chinese people are responsible for the coronavirus, when in reality they also may be victims. They may have loved ones died because of the whole pandemic. So stereotypes in general, they can be good, they can be bad, but overall in the modern world, I think that they bring more bad than good.
Yep,
Okay.
totally understood.
Okay, then return back to the STEM topic. Do you two like suffer from any discrimination because that you're labeled, I don't know, like terms like geek or nerd or STEM kids? Have you guys or even your friends faced any discrimination related to this problem? You don't have to share like your experience exactly, just say maybe yes or no. If you want to, you can go in detail if you want to. Yeah.
For me, I haven't really been discriminated that much. Maybe it's just because everyone just is fine with me just being good at science, and whenever they need help with like a science question, they just come and ask me. Maybe that's good, I think. But overall, I don't really think I've been discriminated that much just because I spend a lot of time in science and, well, technology. Arthur?
So yeah, I have been called a nerd, but like I don't find it very uncomfortable because in fact I would have to mention that like in first term like we had this CCA called Muscle Monsters, and I was in it, I was an organizer, and I find like even if I'm a nerd, like I am much stronger than you. So what is, if you are not, what is your qualification to call me a nerd if I'm better than you in science and technically I have more muscles than you? So why can you call me a nerd if that's your place?
I'd like
Okay,
to
okay, I
ask
see.
you, I have one question. Do you think
Sure.
people look upon you guys? Because you guys take science, right? And I think based on our whole cohort, not speaking for everyone who's in a grade 11, year 12 situation, but you guys tend to be looked upon. So for example, if you're a double science student, usually for me, I don't take a double science. I take an arts and a science and a humanities subject. So I would say, wow, they take double science. That's insane. Or people would look up to you guys and say, wow, that's really difficult. Like that's really hard. Do you think you guys are looked upon? And is there like there's definitely a hierarchy to what subject you choose. That's a very obvious one. But do you see that as a pressure to excel in your sciences or as a person so people don't look worse at you by any chance?
Well, for me, I it really depends on what I guess you'd say the person has in mind as like their future goal. If they want to be, if they want to do something science related, then yeah, they might look up to those who do double sciences, or if you're in DSE, Phi Chem Bai, the most famous triple. Uh, the main issue is that not everyone wants to do triple sciences, and some people may look up upon well, I guess you'd call it science kids, but at the same time, not all do, and for good reason. I myself, I look up to basically a good amount of art students, whether it's visual arts, drama, or music, because it takes a lot of practice and talent to actually work their way up to, let's say, a grade, oh no, 7 or 8 in given instruments, or even drawing. It takes thousands of hours to perfect it. And I have in gen or well, even humanities, you have to have a good knowledge of the subject as a whole in order to be able to master it. And overall, students in general should have some form of respect for every single subject because all of them are very unique in their own ways. And the opportunities that they offer to students, how their minds think of different subjects, and well, what they do in those, well, aforementioned subjects, it basically offers them various different perspectives and opportunities to learn more about the rest of the world, the rest of the academic world as a whole. So I think that even if people only look up to science kids, that's fine. That's their opinion, but they should also learn more about the other subjects, from languages to humanities to arts. They should learn more about them, and they should also gain a respect for those subjects as well.
Yeah, I
Okay, so
do
like,
agree with Terrence. Justin, you got anything to say?
I was gonna sum up. You go ahead. You go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, I do agree with Terrence on how like all knowledge sets are very valuable, but I think the main difference is that science is something that many do not expose too much, while like something like geography or history, like even if I don't study it, I might know something about it. So when science kids are revising something, so for example, let's talk about enzymes, lactases, and carbohydrates, like non-science kids, they think it is very foreign. It's like very hard. It's like another language, another total language. But when someone is talking about Nazis, I might know something about it. So that's the main difference of like science and arts. And but the science courses are actually manageable, I would have to say that. And the courses are not very overwhelming. If you're interested, like if you know about enzymes, then like probably those kids, they do study in biology. And if you actually read about those science specific, like in magazines, then you're probably interested in science, and many already take science. So that's what makes the difference, because if you're not a science person and you don't read about science, you find it like another language. But if you're not like, you are like a science person, but you can also read about art and history. And I think like all students, they should read about other subjects too, which would make a great difference. And it doesn't seem very foreign to them, so they would consider their real subject choices and see what they actually like.
Good. So I guess to sum both of you up, it's most like you want to be more well-rounded. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, well-roundedness is what you two aspire to be. Am I correct? Or people aspire to be, actually, not you. You two.
For the most case, yes. I believe that everyone should at least, well, to some extent, be in a way jack of all trades, master of none. But of course, don't master nothing. Master your interest. That would be, I guess, my message.
Okay, so now I'm gonna go into the stereotypes part. Actually, we probably should have put with this part first because we need to understand the stereotype to like get the response. But you know what? Whatever. So we're gonna go in. I'm gonna share. I can't share screen. Can I share screen? Oh, can you share screen?
I can share it. Yep. If you want.
Okay, can you go to the document and then share
Yes,
share screen, go to the document and then scroll down to the meme part.
Yep, let me go to there right now. Hold on 1 second, please.
Okay, so while Mahina's doing that, I'm gonna go on and talk about the stereotypes kind of. So I think the stereotypes that I researched on, they're mostly American pop culture memes and stereotypes. Because if you think about it, in Hong Kong, everyone's taking some kind of science, right? I mean, you have physics, chemistry, biology, and then you can have like food tech, DT, you can choose. But I think in American pop culture and in general, like they tend to have like this one-sidedness. Like you're either arts or you're a science geek person.
Okay.
So in Hong Kong,
share your screen. Sorry to interrupt. I think
okay,
you
okay.
can share your screen. Check.
Yes, I can. Okay, so to continue what I was saying, so in Hong Kong, it's different because most of us are taking a science, but in America, not really. So you'll see these stereotypes and what am I saying? Let me think for a second. Wait. Okay, what I'm trying to say is that in Hong Kong, I think that the geek stereotype, it's not that common and people generally don't really discriminate geeks because everyone's kind of a geek in Hong Kong, right? Everyone's studying all the time. Everyone's a geek. So there are no geeks. But in American pop culture, it's really obvious that you see the jock, the hot, promiscuous woman. You have the geeks, you have the weirdos, you have the cigarette people. It's all over the place. You have different stereotypes, but and yeah, so we're gonna look at that now. We're gonna look at the geeks. So basically, as you can see here, I'm gonna zoom in. Probably gonna lag. But here's the first meme I found, and this is the starter pack meme, or what? Oh no, sorry, the black one. It's the what people think I do vs what I actually do meme. So you can see here what my friends think I do. Friends think that every CS major is a hacker. What my mom thinks I do, old-fashioned, I don't even know what that is, but then, like geek stuff kind of. Sorry, geek stuff. What my professors think I do in class, you make, I don't know, cool ass games. You make, I don't know, like, you know what? No, let's not go there. What I think I do, you think that, I don't know, you're also a super hacker. What society thinks I do, they think you're Bill Gates. Is that Bill Gates? I don't know. What I actually do, you're just Googling. So to summarize this theme, I guess, I think one thing I can point out from here is that society's kind of, they have this high expectation for science people. I mean, in this case specifically, it's like CS majors. Like they think all of them are Bill Gates. All of them make crazy apps. All of them can do this, that. But actually, what I actually do is you Google stuff. You have things that you have no idea what you're doing, and you don't know what you're doing most of the time. So do you think that there is this problem in society that most people are like setting too high expectations for science majors?
Well, as someone who's taken ICT, to some extent, in a way, some of the work that computer science majors do, it's quite different from what the general public may think. And also, just quickly remind you that's one of the founders of Apple, Steve Jobs. Bill Gates is the Microsoft
Oh,
man.
okay, yeah, sorry.
Yes, Microsoft man.
Mix them up. Sorry.
No worries.
Yeah, okay, so I read on the forum a while back because I was researching different college degrees. So I was like, because I was thinking, okay, what degree should I take? I'm not a science person, but I just looked through forums and see, okay, what majors are people taking, right? And I saw this Reddit forum, and they're basically saying like, oh, biology majors, you should drop it. You should not take it. And then in there, like multiple people detail that they've seen bartenders or like retail people, they have biology degrees and they don't get anywhere. And it's basically, I don't know if I'm correct, but it's like, is it in the science field, is it like make it or break it? Like you're either on the top layer, like Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, or you're at the bottom layer, which is like not using your degree at all. You're being a bartender, I don't know, like doing other things. Do you think that's the case, or is it not?
So yeah, I was thinking about what you said about biology majors. And yeah, I think it is true to a certain degree that you can be like a top researcher, you can be researching in university, or it is kind of useless if you cannot use it at all, because science is something very specific, we can say. If you cannot apply it to your job, then you might not have the so what we talk about is like transferable skill sets. Does science provide the skill sets that could be used in like other jobs? And like when we talk about, for example, let me say medicine, because I done a lot of research on it. If you're not if you study medicine and you're not gonna become a doctor, you can actually apply that skill set to management, or you can become a medical writer, a medical lawyer. So it has many kinds of skill sets that you could apply to different careers and different jobs. And yeah, I believe it is also true for other science majors. It's all about the transferable skill sets instead of only applying the knowledge you learn in the majors.
Okay.
I'd like to add space button didn't work there. One interesting thing about science is, in a way, it's kind of different compared to other jobs. With other jobs, the most common way is you just get, let's say, maybe your bachelor's or your master's, and then you become a teacher, or maybe you do a job or something, be a doctor. Mind blank there. With some sciences, let's say if you take physics or you take chem and you plan on becoming a long-term researcher, very often it's only until you actually get your doctorates.
Muted. You're muted.
Sorry, I'm just gonna press the proper button. Where did I stop?
I think after when you said specific job, only science can apply to specific jobs.
Oh, science specific jobs. Hold on, give my brain a second. Okay. For science, I'll just go back a bit further just in case. Some jobs, let's say if you want to become a doctor or a teacher, you may only need a master's or a bachelor's, for example. And then while you do more work into that field, you go study part-time, for example, you then get your master's and eventually your doctorates. Compared to if you want to become like a full-time researcher, very often you basically won't have like a secondary job. You might have like a part-time retail job, but the main point of focus, if you want to become a researcher, for example, is basically going to be nearly full-time student. You're going to be studying all the way up until you're maybe until you get your doctorates, most likely, and only after then will you be like properly doing independent research on various topics. Before that, it's just going to be a lot of building up your knowledge, and only in the final stages will you actually be conducting maybe even world-changing research.
Okay, so now I'm going to move on to the stereotypes, the proper stereotypes presented in media. So the two shows I'm going to use here are Big Bang Theory and Rick and Morty. Have any of you seen any of those two shows? Yes or no?
I also love Big Bang Theory because I've seen it. Big Bang Theory is basically there's a lot of scientists, some in the science, some in the biology, some in the astrophysics, one in astrophysics, a few in the physics, and then one in biology, marine and women biology. I can't remember what they are. But basically they're all just a group of science friends. There's like one really dumb girl. She's basically she wants to become an actor, but she can't. She ends up not. But the group
Yeah,
of
Penny.
Yeah, Penny is the girl that is not science based, but every other person, every other character is in the field of science. So basically they're all friends and they have arguments, and I think the assumption of they're academically smart but they're not smart in real life. There is the character named Sheldon Cooper. He is extremely smart, super smart in the physics, but he is it's very questionable when it comes to life. So for example, if you get a roommate, right? He will make a roommate contract, a set of rules you can't do. He has to eat specific foods on specific days, specific types of food. Like for takeout, for example, I want a pepperoni pizza with lactose-free cheese. So like an order like that. So basically, he doesn't have the common sense, but his brain is academically genius and gifted. So basically, something like that. Big Bang Theory.
Yeah. No, okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna go through, because I have like a list of stereotypes and like characteristics. I'm just gonna go through one by one. I'm gonna go through the one Mahina said as well, like being compulsive. And I think if you guys want to, you can like interrupt me. I don't mind. Like this should be more informal. And when I'm describing these characteristics, I may exaggerate and I might even go overboard. So if you disagree, feel free. So the first one, the first characteristic is that STEM kids have a nerdy appearance / not attractive. Okay. So for example, in the Big Bang Theory, there's this character, I forgot what his name was, but he has a bowl cut and he wears this belt with a Batman
Howard,
yeah, Howard. He has a Batman belt on, and then he has a really niche fashion style. And for the rest of the characters, they have also quite like a bland fashion style, might I say. Like they wear shirts with cartoon characters printed on them. They dress like they're from the Beatles. Um, their body, it's most likely, like mostly, it's lanky. Like you can see in Rick and Morty. I mean, you can say that the art style in Rick and Morty, most like all of them are like lanky, but like in Big Bang Theory, I mean Sheldon Harrow, what's his name again?
Howard.
Arnold. Howard. Howard's lanky, and then there's this South Asian person. He's also quite lanky, I would say. Like to a certain extent, you can say like a corpse. I mean, I don't know if you would say that, but like corpse-like kind of like very pale. I personally don't agree with this because come on, look at Arthur. You're so hot. You're so muscular. You're so muscular. I'm not hitting on you, but like this stereotype, it's wrong. Okay, so you guys don't need to respond to this because Arthur is the prime example of that. This characteristic is not true. Okay, next characteristic. So um within the geek category, you have like specific tropes. So for example, in Big Bang Theory, the character Howard, he's like this weird misogynistic, like uh misogynistic person. Okay, like he makes weird sex jokes, like related to like boobs or butts, like women's body parts, weird pickup lines. And then you have, okay, what I'm doing. Sorry, I lost my notes. Let me go back. And then you have the compulsive emotionless nerd. So they lack social common sense. I mean, if I have to phrase it better, it would be book smart, but not street smart. Like that type of person. Like they don't know how to interact in social context. So for example, if it's in I think, yeah, in Big Bang Theory in season 1, there was this part where this character had to go up to Penny's ex-boyfriend's house or something. I didn't really watch the show, but I think that's it. One character with Sheldon went up to this dude's house to help Penny get something back, right? And then the dude's like, "Oh my god, you're a nerd, get the hell out of here." But then Sheldon and this dude, they're like, I just want to get it. And Sheldon, he popped this weird, like, he doesn't understand the social context. So he was like, also tell him that we have a combined like 178 IQ or even higher. I forgot what it was. But he said something really like out of place. And I think they were beaten. And at the end of the scene, they lost their pants. They were just wearing underpants and walked out of the building. So this is like the stereotype of like the compulsive emotionless nerd. And then we have the third type or third trope of nerd. So this trope is like this super geeky, super shy geek. So this person cannot interact with women. Cannot. They I forgot what his name was. I think
His
it's Raja.
name, yeah. I'm checking right now. Yeah, Raj. His name was Raj,
Yeah.
and I can help you
His
explain.
name is Raj. And in Big Bang Theory, when he first met Penny, he couldn't speak to her because like he was so afraid. He couldn't even move his mouth. He was just like this. And he needed someone to like talk to her for him. And yeah, those are basically the tropes that I gathered from Big Bang Theory. The fourth trope, I can say that it's like the crazy neurological scientist. You can see that from Rick and Morty. Morty's like this crazy delusional person, really, really smart, but then he's really, really rude, does not care for anyone but himself. So yeah, do you guys have any like response to those tropes or reactions? No?
Well, in a way, hold on, I'm just gonna make sure that it doesn't randomly unmute. Well, mute, not unmute. The main thing that I'd like to emphasize is this is entertainment. It's TV
Yeah.
shows. So very often, the script writers, they like to really exaggerate things. So what ends up being portrayed as TV is in reality not actually realistic at all. Hollywood, for example, let's say gunshots or explosions. In reality, a good amount of what they portray on screen is nothing like what happens in real life, for example. Tons of different movies, there's tons of different YouTube channels talking about how things actually happen in real life. And the same thing applies to stereotypes. A lot of them are commonly over exaggerated, but some of them, to some extent, actually applies to everyone. I mean, let's be honest, who wouldn't be nervous talking to a girl? If you've got really good social confidence, good for you. But in general, these things don't only apply to a certain group of people. It's just the features are more prominent in certain groups, and that's why the stereotype is associated with them.
I
Yes,
believe, like,
but
Justin, can I
okay.
say something?
Go
Like,
on, you go on. Yeah, sure.
so I believe, like, these science people, they somewhat associated them with characteristic of people with autism, because like the characteristics you mentioned, like cannot speak to the opposite gender, or being sometimes crazy, or saying inappropriate jokes. These are some characteristics of like people with autism. So yeah, it is somewhat associated, which is created by Hollywood directors and investors. Let's say the image is created by media.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, go on.
So yeah. Responding to your autism point, uh, it actually maybe make more sense to say it's portrayed as highly functional autism, also known as Asperger's syndrome. That would probably be more appropriate because you're actually excelling in a certain type. And for the record, I'm not an expert on the autism spectrum. So some of the points I say here may offend someone. So sorry about that in advance. But basically, people who have Asperger's syndrome, they like to put their focus on certain topics. So some people may have a great interest in transportation, for example, or maybe space, or various different topics, maybe literature. Uh, it it might just be because they may, well, people who are socially awkward or lack skills in certain areas but excel in others, it might not just be because they've got this highly functioning autism, but also partially because of how they've been raised. They might just not have had exposure to this type of stimulus to know how to respond to them appropriately. So really, once again, it just depends on a various number of factors.
Okay. So, okay, responding to what Terrence said before that, like these memes or stereotypes I'm drawing from are entertainment. Yes, I agree with that. I 100% agree with that. But we need to keep in mind that when we're young, I mean, for Gen Z, I would say, like we, from a very young age, I would say even at 1 years old, we consume media from our laptops, from our iPads, from our iPods, I don't care. Like any media, right? So I would say that we have a good sense of media literacy, but then analyzing the media that we're consuming and dissecting it, it's a different thing. So yeah, these stereotypes are exaggerated, but at the same time, I think people do pay attention to these stereotypes and do think that these stereotypes are real because, to reference to a point you said, they lack interaction with this group of people, right? So most often, the only point of reference would be these type of entertainment shows, and for example, Big Bang Theory. So yeah, it is entertainment, but we have to keep in mind that some people do not know how to dissect the media that they're watching and actually understand if whether that's true or not. So that's why they do draw from stereotypes, and we need to pay attention to that. And that's why I'm using.
Absolutely. Very good points.
Yes.
Awesome.
So
you go, sorry.
Okay. I'm just gonna keep going. I'm gonna repeat everything. I'm gonna keep on going through the list, and you can respond at the end once I'm done. So characteristics to continue on: incredibly smart, knowledgeable, but makes jokes and references that nobody understands, and they use jargon all the time. So I don't know, they make like Harry Potter or Star Trek references that, I mean, now I would say that nowadays most people understand them because geek culture is practically pop culture at this point. But before, I think maybe 2018, most people wouldn't understand those references. So most of the time, people would like, "What were you saying?" Because you're making Star Trek or Harry Potter references, or you're making like, I don't know, physics, biology references. You're talking about cells, like was it that myoculus is the powerhouse of what even is that?
Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the
Mitochondria.
cell. Yes,
Mitochondria.
a classic.
That's the only type of popular culture thing that like related to science that popped up in the early 2010s. But besides from that, everything else in pop culture that are related to science people, or they're nerds, they have Asperger's kind of, they lack social skills, they're not funny, they're not attractive, blah, blah, blah. It's all that. So just something to, I don't know what I'm saying, but anyways, yeah. And this group of people is compulsive, and they refuse to budge for people. So for example, in Big Bang Theory, Penny, actually she should be named Pennywise because she's a clown. But anyways, Penny is sleeping on the couch, and Sheldon nearly sat on her face because he has this habit where he sits on the couch every morning watching TV, and he goes on saying whatever. But like this scene shows that, like, I don't know, popular media and popular culture is reflecting that science people, they are compulsive and refuse to budge. And one last thing is that science people are self-centered or crude. In the show, you can see Sheldon and Leonard, they were constantly bragging about their combined IQ of 200 something. They have, I don't know, they have a lot of achievements. They studied in this and that and that. They have a lot of different accomplishments. That's one thing that they emphasize a lot when they're talking to people. So those are the general tropes that I've gathered from Big Bang Theory and Rick and Morty. How do you guys feel about that? Anything you want to add?
Well, some of them, well, of course they are true to some extent. For me personally, I can be compulsive sometimes. If there is something that, let's say, even when I'm doing homework, for example, if suddenly there's something that goes off in my head, and I'm really interested in it, I'll often put the homework aside for a bit and actually get the thing that was on my mind off first. So it might be I don't know, a science topic that suddenly popped into my head, or maybe some other things. But some of these tropes are true to some extent, but it really does depend from person to person.
Yeah. I would say these tropes are kind of like 50-50, hit or miss. For Arthur, obviously it's a miss for the appearance part. But it's hit or miss. I agree with Terrence. I'm gonna continue on like the effects that these tropes possibly bring onto STEM kids. So one effect is that it can alienate you guys, right? Obviously I mean, not in Hong Kong, but then in America or in different cultures, they might face alienation or ostracization because of these tropes, and because other people are dumb and they don't know how to analyze tropes. And yeah, that's it. Do you think that's correct? Do you think, well, not really. Any disagreements?
I think it's not that crazy. Like people do distant, maybe science people, but it's not like there's like a solid barrier. Like they have this rigid thinking, and they think like science people are very rigid because their whole concept is science people are people from like the, I don't know, 19th century who sit on a table and debate, and they confirm their own judgments. Like they don't budge. Like they say this is my theory and this is the right theory, but like it's, people are changing. Like science nowadays, today's theory tomorrow is like entirely different, and that's the entire thing. I think it's quantum, is it? Like it just pushes they just proves the theory is wrong, because if you have one wrong example, then the entire theory can be moved. And nowadays it just keeps on changing, and science people, they do evolve. And I mean, if you're talking about science people, it's also applying on like all specialized themes. Like if you're an art student and you talk about very specialized art skills like the Bauhaus style, and I don't understand anything, it could be the same. Like people do distance themselves from each other, but we really do put an effort to pooling ourselves together and improve like the general society together.
Yeah. Also, I'd like to just quickly add, hopefully, uh, the people who you surround yourself with is your choice. So, and usually, well, people surround themselves with, well, people who share similar interests. So, the science kids may choose to, well, just surround themselves with other science kids, for example. And also, responding a little bit to Arthur's points, I forgot what I was going to say. How amazing! No, ignore that part.
Okay, so Mahina, do you want to go?
Yes. I like to build on to the science kids going like specific groups of people going to specific groups of people. So I myself I like to classify myself as an art kid because I plan on going into the arts after high school. But I actually don't see myself communicating much with the art kids more than I do with the science kids. I do take a single science, but I don't see myself talking to an art kid more than if I would talk to Terrence, Arthur, or Justin, which are two science kids and one art kid. So do we really surround ourselves like okay, it's your opinion obviously, and I'm not a science focused person, but do you think that we usually find a similar group of people? Because I know Terrence has a group of three, and one is not technically to science either, more of a technology, but not much of a science sided person. I'm not sure. Please explain.
Well, definitely. Well, really, it once again comes down to, I guess you'd say, synergy between, well, a group of people. If a group synergizes well, then they're more likely to, well, hang out, chill out, be friends with each other. Uh, Sometimes it may be because they're all interested in science or maybe art, or sometimes it's just personalities. Everyone might be quite chill. You might enjoy the mood when you hang out with them. So sciences and both subjects may only be one factor, and there's also many other different factors that all tie in together to determine who you hang out with, in my opinion.
Yeah, I do agree. Like, for my friend group, it's sort of like personality, but most of the people in my friend group are leaning towards the art spectrum. Yeah, for Arthur, I can explain. You have a group of friends, all of you work out, you guys made Muscle Monster, so all of you like muscle. Bam.
You
But
can't say
I would
that.
say, yeah. So I think I would say that it is common for people to find friends that have the same interests, but it is also there is also a possibility that people find friends who don't have the same common interests. You just vibe with them. The vibes, synergy vibes. Yeah. So to end that off, I'm gonna pull in some interesting facts or fact. It's only one, but the term geek comes from like 19th century carnivals, and there are these things called geek shows, and these geek shows find performers to bite the head off of chickens. And yeah, so basically at this time the term geek was associated with people who are like geeky and weird and weirdos, freaky. And geeks are uh, Greek Greeks. What am I saying? Geeks are perceived as repulsive and fascinating. And another thing that I want to add is that I think, if I remember correctly, that the geek trope, like the mad scientist, oh, I'm crazy, those type of scientists, that trope, it emerged from the 1930s in the movie. And it's very interesting that that trope stuck from then to now. And although there may be like some variations of that trope, it is still here after like what is it, 70, 80 years? Yeah. So that's interesting.
Last
But
thing.
I think
Oh, you finish?
I'm done. You go ahead.
Last thing to ask you guys, for anyone who's watching, which I don't know how many, any advice for students that plan on going into the double sciences, or any advice for them to learn to not to okay, let's say this is not a stereotype, by the way, just to make it very clear, but some take the word science kid more personal than maybe you guys, because I know when I first heard someone call me like, oh, she's that because I went to, again, a UST course myself, and I remember people calling me like, oh, that science kid, that science girl that went to UST. Like, I took that, when I was informed, I took it very, very personal. I was like, but I am not focused on science. I only do it because I like biology. Definitely took it way too personal and had countless breakdowns over it. Any advice to not come back, to handle these stereotypes that you may have to intake, and any advice for students that plan to pursue into the science as either as their diploma is approaching or as a major?
Well, I guess one could say the most important thing is to enjoy the subject. There really isn't a point in taking a subject if you don't like it, unless you've got no other options. In that case, well, sorry about that. But even if you don't enjoy science, there's hopefully things that will.
Muted.
Muted.
I hate my spacebar. Sorry. Where did I cut off?
Some things you might like in science around that area.
Okay. Even if you don't like science, there's very likely that there's some things that you may like. The experiments, those are fun. You may also get some eureka moments that click in your head. But overall, advice for students who plan on picking up, well, sciences, be proud of your choice. You're making a pick that every person will eventually have to make, and it isn't an easy choice. You're having to choose within a limited selection, and also within limited blocking. But most importantly, don't be too pessimistic. Yes, things may not turn out great. Your grades may not look uh, as good as you expected to, but just make sure you don't stop trying. Yes, effort is not always rewarded, but you don't hit 100% of the shots you don't take. Did I say it wrong or did I say it right? I don't know.
No, you said it right.
You
Arthur?
excellent. Arthur, anything?
So the main thing you gotta do is to stay curious, of course. And like before choosing science, of course, you have to know your subject choices, like for university. It's very important. So I nearly made a mistake by skipping chemistry, which was really necessary for studying medicine in university. And I did not have a lot of contact with chemistry, but I find it very interesting. You have to sometimes, you don't understand it, you have to just force yourself to like it. And it's like a chain reaction. It's an entire chain reaction. Liking something, you become good at it, you like it even better. And it's very true for the science subjects. Like I I did like biology, and I started liking chemistry and developed some interest for physics. So I believe like if you start liking one of the science subjects, you start developing an interest for other science subjects too. So I really encourage you to explore all the science fields before you choose them, know them well, and know what you like.
And as a science kid myself, honestly, if you're not planning into liking a science, choose a science you actually like. The blocking, yes, is going to be an issue if you don't like a specific science, but when you go into either the IB or the DSE or even A level, there is going to taking a science is not a bad idea. I'm not a huge fan of it. In fact, I take standard level for it. I don't hate the subject as much as I expected myself to, because there's something fascinating about science that you'll learn to love. And yes, there's quite a large amount of workload that you're going to have to put off if you're not smart like me. But there's always going to be something that fascinates you, or a specific subunit, or a whole topic that interests you, and you'll somehow learn to love science. Even if it's just one subject and not a chain reaction of biology to chemistry to physics. I hate physics because I can't do math. I despise chemistry because I can't do that either. But yeah, basically just if you're having to force to do a science, read the syllabus if you could online and choose something you know you'll like. Yeah. And I think
Okay,
go on.
can I do the outro? Okay, so first thing, Mahina, you're smart. You're the one who thought of this podcast. Bro. Second thing, I'm gonna introduce the topic for next episode. So next episode, we're gonna talk about LGBTQ relations and tropes and different effects that these tropes have on LGBT people and people outside of the community. So if you don't know what it means lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and then you have the plus sign, which is like there are a lot of different other sexualities and gender expressions. There's that. So if I had to put it in a metaphor, it would be like Arthur's background. I don't know if you'd see it in the edit, like in the final edit, but it's like fruits. You have your apples, your oranges, your bananas. You have your guave. You can go Mexican. You can have tacos. You can have enchiladas. I don't know. It's a full spectrum. But how LGBTQ people are perceived is like Terrence's camera. Basically, it's like a paper tissue roll. You're looking out from a paper tissue roll. It's like one-sided, one small circle, and you can't see people, and especially in media, portray LGBT people as these one-dimensional character. You're gay, and then at the end you die. That's it. They have like no, I don't know, like character arc or anything. They're just there to be gay and then die. Like, what even is happening? So we're gonna discuss that next episode. But before then, you can wait and cry. So thank you, guests, Arthur, Terrence. Thank you, Mahina, for doing all this and making the first episode happen. Thank you myself because I did the research. So do you guys want to say thanks, or I don't know, bye or something?
Yeah. Thank you for having us, basically. Also, random LGBTQ fact, but did you know that people who are homophobic are more likely to be immature? Did you know that? If you didn't and you would like more facts about LGBTQ community, don't forget the plus. Make sure to tune in for the next episode of this podcast.
Yes.
For that.
And also, Monique is going to be our guest next episode. She's from the LGBTQ Alliance in our school. So if you know her, you know her. If you don't know her, you're going to know her next episode.
And we'll see everyone next episode for our podcast. Thank you, Terrence and Arthur, once again, and Justin. We'll see you guys next episode. Adios. Bye.